So, hello Frankie,
Hey.
and welcome to Finland for, I don't know how many years that you've been here last time.
Don't ask me.
many. So today we're gonna talk a little bit about singing and screaming. So you're ready?
Me, yeah. Let's do it. I'm ready.
Do you recall when you heard like metal or heavier music for the first time?
Yes. But my introduction to kind of anything guitar-driven, aggressive at all was like, I guess more mainstream acts of the era. So I was the youngest of 3 children, so I had siblings who would influence me, and they were older than me, so they'd be attached to music, faster than I would be, right? So I grew up in a house with like Faith No More and Metallica. That was like normal. I'm like 6, 7 years old, 8 years old maybe max, and I'm familiar with this. We're watching MTV together, like Paula Abdul's on TV. My parents are listening to country music, so music was always around. So I knew that the genres were distinct. I knew what was aggressive and what wasn't. But my earliest memory of bands like that again would be like Metallica, Faith No More, and maybe Danzig. There's other stuff that was playing on the radio that was either contemporary or just popular enough that I would know it at that age.
What was like in heavier music that caught your attention, and how did you pick up the microphone?
Being that I'm open-minded and I kind of liked everything, I guess bands that were introductory, that were more underground, I guess maybe even more aggressive, or bands like, I would even say Limp Bizkit was one of those breakthrough bands for me in terms of aggression. Like the $3 Bill Y'all album, what I picked up was, it's like biblical for me pretty much, you know what I'm saying? So I would say that's a really early one, but then of course, like there's so many bands I can give credence to. I mean, there's Neck, Candiria, Hatebreed, One King Down, One for One, Sky Came Falling. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on about the things that I discovered or were lucky enough to have shown to me when I was that young. So yeah, again, but to me it starts just with like very much whatever is kind of in the mainstream at that time was my first, I guess, okay, there's like, this is heavy music. I even in kindergarten, I was like, they'd play music on like the jukebox or record player or whatever, and I would stand there in the corner and I'd be like, this isn't heavy metal. Like I knew like at that age, I'm like, this is not hard at all. I don't like this. But yeah, I don't know if I went too far off with your question, but I think I summed up at least the kind of bands that I'm familiar with from that time that put me on to it, the genre.
So what kind of like early memories do you have when it comes to screaming?
I guess it's like all the bands I listed before, a hobby of mine at like a very early age, like I'm talking like 10, 11, 12 years old. I spent a lot of time just like singing along to these records, just like loving the lyrics, loving the energy, and kind of discovering that I can mimic it pretty good, and just that was fun for me. But yeah, that's my earliest recollection of actually like just even using my voice in that capacity, which is again being a fan and so passionate about it that I would like again dig through the lyric books and like almost do like a mini performance in my bedroom, like pretend I'm in the band. That's what I did a lot when I was a kid. Yeah.
Are there like some specific tracks that you remember like singing and screaming?
I mean, the Hatebreed album, Satisfaction, is the Desire. I mean, I know that front to back. $3 Bill Y'all. I mean, everyone could probably see that coming. I mean, every Korn record, Neck albums, again, Candiria, One King Down, anything that I just became kind of hyper obsessed with, I would just do the exact thing you're saying, and just like literally live the album, like try my best to perform it to a T. That was literally a hobby of mine at a very, very early age.
So were you losing your voice all the time, and did it take like a long time to figure out the right technique for it?
No, I never felt like I was doing anything uncomfortable. That's kind of what I share with people most of the time when they ask me like about advice for using your voice. I always tell them it's best to just do what feels right in your gut, not a voice you hear in your head. I just at the time wasn't even doing that. I was just mimicking what I was hearing. I was just trying to sound as close to the people I was listening to. Did it ever hurt me? No, not really. It'd be later in life I'd learn like what is healthy for my voice and what isn't. And what it comes down to essentially is just how I take care of myself. So as long as like I'm pretty much inside and out, mentally, physically feeling my best, it'll come out on stage as well. But I know I went on a bit of a tangent with your question, but that's the best way for me to sum it up.
So was Emmure like the first proper band that you had, and did you immediately jump right into your own music?
It was me trying to be in other bands before Emmure, like very primitive kind of things, like 3, like guitar player, drummer, me in a room, unable to like even jam correctly. You know, so just nothing coming together, just three doofuses just in a basement making noise pretty much. It went from like that to like meeting some cats who took it a little more serious, and then I had that growth spurt as well. And then before it was Emmure, I had gotten the chance to do like a recording like with a project or whatever, a band that never played live or anything like that, but we just had like some demo songs we made, and that was the content I used at the early stages to actually meet the members that would at the time form Emmure. So it went from again like being like, okay, I'm kind of in a band, like sort of, I'm very young and sure we have a band, to like Emmure is like the first band that went out and like we did touring and things like that, you know. So it's obviously a whole other echelon. It goes from playing like no shows to playing like one show to being a band that plays, you know, 300 shows a year sometimes, you know. So it's like that.
So did you immediately jump right into your own music with Emmure, or were you first doing covers? Or
oh yeah, we never did covers, or at least wrote covers. I'm sure we would do stuff live that was like a homage to bands that we liked. Yeah, we just went to strictly writing our own tunes, and it's online now. You look up like Emmure demos on YouTube. There's like our literally first recordings ever, like a 10-track CD. That sounds like fucking junk, but yeah, that's what we could do at the time. You know, it was 2003. That was our best. You know, with the Digitrack stuff we had, and our friend who knew how to record vocals, whatever. You know, very early stuff.
What kind of like memories do you have when it comes to the first proper tours that you did? Were you ready as a vocalist to do like show after show? Did you have the stamina for it?
It was interesting. That actually, I haven't thought about that really in a long time, but it's a great question. I guess in my head I'm like, I can do this. I got this. I had a confidence about it that carried it. Again, it would be later that I would learn that like there's other things that go into it, not just having the ability to do it, but also having the ability to take care of yourself in a way that allows yourself to, you know, do this kind of gig. You play 5 nights a week sometimes. Yeah. There were times where my voice did have struggle, or like it did give out, and I've had to heal it, and it's been through a lot, honestly. Again, essentially, so it was the early days, and my ability to do it, I felt pretty confident at the time. I didn't really have a lot of trouble, if that really sums it up for you. It wasn't like, oh no, man, maybe I can't handle this. Like I pretty much did all the tours back to back to back to back, and then maybe there'd be a tour where I'm like, fuck, I hurt myself because I didn't get enough sleep, or I thought I was warmed up and I really wasn't, you know, things like that. So
in the early days,
yeah,
did you follow any kind of like warm-up routine? Do you have any today?
No, in fact, I was like super careless. I had no concern over like what I put in my body or like when or anything like that. I'd be like, cool, let's smoke a blunt. We play in like 5 minutes, and it's like, you know, it's not the greatest idea. I would do it if I make it through and have a time of it. But you know, looking back, I'm like, I would never do it now. You know.
How is it today?
Now I'm way more scheduled. I mean, I still have like my habits, but for the most part, I'm like 95% on the mark. You know, I try my best to eat right, drink right, sleep right, all that stuff. I really make sure never to overdo anything in any direction. Like, you know, it's cliche. You know, moderation is the key. You know what I'm saying? So everything I do in moderation. It keeps me pretty balanced. So.
Are there like some specific foods or drinks that you felt that they help you with the singing and screaming that you want to take them before the show, or something on the opposite side that you don't want to take that you felt that they harm your vocal cords somehow?
Yeah, there's certain stuff that like I definitely clear from. Like one of them I have no problem saying this publicly is peanut butter. Peanut butter, for some reason, for me, if I eat that, too much of it at any given time, I get like borderline heartburn. So like I feel it in my throat, feel it in my chest, and it's just, I'm really uncomfortable. Other than that, again, nothing really too heavy. So like during the day, the only thing I'll probably eat would be like protein heavy meals like fish and vegetables and choice cut meats and stuff like that. As long as my stomach feels pretty empty, that's usually the healthiest I'll be on stage. That's what I find. I think a lot of singers would say the same thing. They don't really want to like be bogged down with like a meal before they gotta go use their voice or use their body that way, because it's not even just my throat that's really being used. It's like my gut, like even like my midsection, everything.
Full body.
Yeah, exactly. So I keep that in mind always. So as far as things I avoid anything that would deter me from feeling like that, you know.
So obviously you've released a lot of albums with Emmure. Are there like some specific albums that you could pinpoint where you have felt that you've taken a big step forward as a vocalist?
I don't know. I think there are moments on the albums where you go, oh wow, that's growth. Like I never heard him do that, or that was a risk, or you know, I'm surprised he's able to do that with his voice. Whatever that may be. Again, that's completely subjective. That's for other people to decide. But I'm sure those moments exist. For me to say what it is, hard. Again, I do try to experiment. I do try to at least have maybe something somewhere that's like, oh, this is a brand new take or a brand new approach in some capacity. I know that you know, it's like screaming is as niche as it is, it's also a very big spectrum. You know, it's very creative thing. So I try to be as creative as possible, really.
So you're always sort of experimenting with the new albums.
I try to, yeah. I mean, or it's somehow I discover a voice in my voice that I actually didn't even know was there yet. Like, oh wow, this feels great to project. You know, whatever it may be. So it is, again, we're always building in some way. I think everyone who is a creative in any way will say the same thing. It might not be like something that happens every month or every year or whatever the case, but it could be 5 years and you have a breakthrough moment like, oh wow, like this is inside me. So I'm always just digging and digging, you know, seeing what's there.
Hindsight was released like 4 years ago, roughly?
2020, yeah.
So is there like new Emmure music in the works, and will there be like some new vocal approaches?
Yeah, I hope so. I think about that a lot, you know, especially since we've been back on the road after a little bit of a sabbatical. I do have a lot of times where I have moments on stage where I'm like, like, this voice is fun, and then I wonder, like, what else can I do now? Like, now that I've, you know, gone in this direction with these songs, and I think the textures are there, and people know what I sound like. What's new? What else can I do that's be fresh, or what I think would bring out the best of what we have to offer? So yeah, I want to say in confidence, yes, there will be something new, not only musically for people to hear, but again in terms of approach, there perhaps will be something new. I mean, I do think about that a lot, for sure.
But there's no new like timeline for that.
Anything for anyone to hear yet? Sadly, no. But we are building. There is music being written. In fact, I don't know when this interview comes out, but once we're done doing this European tour and we have some other dates to fill, we're going to be focused really heavy on content. So people who've been waiting a long time can definitely expect something new very soon.
So when it comes to performing live, is there like a way you hold the microphone when you perform?
Sometimes there's a little bit of like a dramatization to it too, or like I know I'm putting on performance, so I don't want to be just a guy that looks comfortable. I also want to be like someone who's like projecting and working hard at their craft. So that's also an element of what I do on stage. So when I'm holding the microphone, it's like it's part what will make me sound as good as possible right now, like I feel confident in, and be like, again, a dramatization, like what's actually going to sell the performance. You know, I don't want, because I could just literally sit on the floor the entire show if I wanted to, and my voice would sound exactly the same. Maybe even less constrained by the activity what I'm doing. I mean, I could really belt some stuff out, but that's not really interesting. I want to also be on stage performing, feeling the music the way I really think it's meant to be performed, you know.
So what were your parents' reactions when they heard you first time screaming your lungs out?
Well, you know, my parents as individuals have their own opinions and tastes, and they're not into that kind of music. So to them, it's just, you know, what the heck, you know. So it'll always be that, no matter what level of you know, quote unquote success anyone or I would have ever to someone in my family. I'll always just be like, you know, Frankie. So they're not looking at it like, oh wow, this thing he does. They're more like worried about like whether or not I'm healthy and happy, you know. What I do with the band is like really secondary to them. They're obviously happy for me, but they're not like judging it or being like, oh, you're good or bad at it, you know, because the fuck do they know? Yeah, that's not really their thing. So yeah.
So when you are performing, there's always like rapping and singing and screaming, and there's like a lot of techniques that you use. Yeah. Do you feel that they all go like hand in hand? So if you progress on another section, it helps also with the other sections?
I don't know. For me, look, I'm not a classically trained singer, newsflash, for anyone curious. I just happen to know how to bend and do things to my voice that I feel comfortable doing. And I just work off of that. If it feels comfortable to do it, do it. That's really it. Do I think that one's hurting or helping? I don't know. I'm sure there's kind of some kind of give and take somewhere, because what I do with my voice is very extreme. So I mean, I couldn't, unless maybe I trained or something like that, I could be able to like carry an incredibly high note like a Rob Halford or something like that. You know, I'm not that kind of singer. So I think that I do sacrifice maybe that ability, because I can't see myself being able to do both. But maybe there are people who juggle it. I think it's pretty rare where someone who has like an incredible dark scream also has like an incredibly angelic voice. You know, it's like really rare. I mean, they exist. They exist. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm definitely not one of those guys. I go kind of in my comfort zone really with my voice, what I think will feel and sound the best. Not like I wish I could sing like so and so, and I try and sound like that. No, whatever it is that's coming out of me, that's what people are getting pretty much.
So you will always sound like Frankie.
I think so, yeah.
Last question, any kind of advice that you would like to give to a young metal vocalist who's just about to start the journey? Anything that pops up into your mind?
I mean, my advice for anybody is just enjoy the process, you know, like don't get too bogged down on outcomes or results or what should or shouldn't be happening for you at any given time. If it's something you really are passionate about, I suggest you just do it, and wherever the chips fall, let them fall wherever they may, and don't be too hung up again, like I said, on how it all pans out, because if you enjoy the journey, the entire thing is incredible. I'm just blessed that, you know, people have been caring about the band and supportive of what I do. This is not a zero-sum game. If anyone's watching this right now and wants to do what I'm doing, it's there for the taking. I just think you have to be willing to sacrifice and again, enjoy it. And if you're willing to do both, you could go really far.
Thanks a lot for taking the time.
Thank you.